fishing, it's in my soul.
Welcome to the Salt Strong Podcast, disrupting fishing entertainment as you know it. Prepare to laugh. Prepare to get to know fishing legends in a whole new and unfiltered way. And on occasion, you might even learn a thing or two about fishing. Here's your host, Joe Simons. Like diamonds.
Hello, Salt Strong Nation. Joe Simons, like diamonds. We are back. We are live again. Let's go live to Facebook while I'm doing some intros here. And this is going to be another Tackle Tuesday. And we're going to talk about the different rods, reels, lure, etc. that we're personally testing out here. We're going to take a lot of questions from you and also share some cool things that are happening. Why I try to take this live on the old Facebook. Can you guys introduce yourself, the other talking heads on this amazing Tackle Tuesday podcast?
All right, let's have the new guy start. Mark.
New guy.
Hi, my name is Mark. New to the team. This is going into my second week. Come from the retail segment of our industry. So extensive knowledge there on the retail setting. So I'm trying to help out the guys with a lot of the product informations, a lot of stuff on, tutorials, a lot of the on the water footage. As Salt Strong kind of grows into the industry and other segments like freshwater, I'm going to be a big part of that. But really looking forward to being part of the team and adding my 2 cents into it.
Yeah, we're pumped to have you.
Yeah, and for those insiders, if you've been to the discount page recently, particularly the equipment section, you will notice a lot of new stuff, and that is due to Mark. Mark has opened a lot of doors, and so it's growing. It's grown a ton over the past couple months, and it should be growing a ton more in the very near future.
Yeah, just as a quick reference, so all the insiders and everyone has an understanding. Right now on the system, I have about 1,500 items almost ready to go live. And then I'll have about another 10,000 by week's end. So we're going to add a ton of product. Unfortunately, for the rest of the guys like Wyatt and Tony and all the guys, that means a lot more work for them because there's a lot more to review, a lot more to shout out. But at the end of the day, we want to build the biggest platform possible for all of our members to get the best discounts, to get the best knowledge, and to have the best deliverables from us.
Are you sure? You said 10,000 or do you mean 1,000? Did you say 10,000?
I did say 10,000.
Oh, snap, crackle, pop. That is a lot of tackle, dude.
That's a lot of tackle, but we're going to kind of broaden our horizons a little bit. It's of course going to be primarily driven to the inshore market for now, but you're going to see a lot of love on the freshwater side hitting the platform pretty soon, and actually a lot of the nearshore, offshore kind of products hitting the market pretty soon. Because our fishery is a dynamic fishery, not only here in Florida, but even up there close to Wyatt and his water. Some of that, near shore, offshore stuff, a lot of guys kind of do both segments, the inshore and the offshore. So we're going to offer, products that, will make everyone happy now.
It's awesome, man. We're so pumped to have you on. And Mark's an ex-pro bass dude. He knows his stuff, man, especially when it comes to reels and rods. It's pretty doggone impressive. So we're so stoked to have you on board.
Appreciate
it. As we talked about last week on Tackle Tuesday, we got some new things ourselves up our little sleeves here with one in particular, the Alabama Leprechaun new jerk shed we're coming up with. So we're pumped on that. I don't know what's going on with this live. It still says preparing. You guys seeing it on Facebook at all?
I'm not seeing it.
Not yet.
Then we will keep proceeding as if we have no live audience. It's just the 5 of us dudes talking. Let's kick it. And I guess we haven't introduced everyone else. Mark took so doggone long with his amazing bio. So we got Tony, Wyatt, Luke.
Yeah, buddy.
The crew, Team Salt Strong.
Crew is here.
All right. So who's going to kick it off? Who's reviewing stuff this week? Tony, I saw you put up quite a few videos here over the weekend, man.
Yeah, we're reviewing all kinds of stuff. Pretty much just going through my tackle and seeing what I've got, what I've been using. There's been some stuff I've just been buying just to try out, like this Lure Lock tackle box here. We just posted a full video on this, but it basically has these inserts in the trays, and it keeps your stuff from falling out. So you can see there's tackle in there.
There's no super glue there.
Upside down, and it's not falling out. So it holds pretty well. You'll see a pretty interesting test in the video that I did using a 4-ounce egg sinker, see if that came out. So definitely check that video out. But yeah, it's pretty handy, especially if you've got like swivels and hooks. Usually they slide underneath the dividers, like if your tackle box flips over or slides around, and it just helps keep that stuff in place. So pretty handy, cool little product there.
What about guys like Luke that have really weak wrist? Is it too strong of a magnetic force where you can't pull it up?
I think you'll be all right.
Luke.
Got to use the strong hand, right, Joe?
Use my strong hand.
One thing I did realize after I did the video, I didn't mention this in the video, but like if you have really small hooks and they're stuck to the bottom, it's really tough to get them out. Or if you have like one swivel you're trying to grab, it's really tough to get them out with just your fingers. So you may have to use like pliers or something like that to get them out. But overall, pretty cool little product there.
You glad you bought it?
I don't think I'll be using it. It's because I like to have waterproof stowaways, especially in the kayak. I don't want water magically getting in there, and then I go to put it away and open it up the next time I go out and everything's rusted out. So
yeah, waterproof is essential. That's all I use now is waterproof ones.
Yep.
Because all it takes is one little drop of salt water in there, and the whole whatever's in there is ruined. And it's happened to me once, actually a couple of times. I didn't learn the first time, so now I have happened to me multiple times now, and waterproof everything.
Yeah, another thing I noticed is dishwasher safe, and one thing I was wondering about it. One question came in on the post about this is if it gets a bunch of dirt inside, then what? So it's dishwasher safe. So I'm going to try that out. I'm just going to put a bunch of dirt in it and see how much it cleans out. Hopefully I don't ruin my dishwasher with dirt, but could be a cool test to do with that.
But the problem, so here's the one I've been using, just the Plano waterproof. I mean, they're like at Walmart's, they're pretty much everywhere for my hooks. They're really for all my stuff. But the one for the hooks is very frustrating because there's a lot of gap. And so, Mark, I don't know, does anybody make one that has like ridges at the top to prevent the gap where hooks can slide over the top? Because my tackle box, Otis would always knock it over and it ends up upside down. And now I've got hooks everywhere.
Yeah, so what the problem was with a lot of the extrusion is, to answer your question, what they're starting to make now is all the inserts and the row dividing tabs will have a flat surface. That way, when the lid closes down, it closes to the flat surface. But what the problem is, especially in our climate down here in the Southeast, when that heat really starts to warm these boxes up, those top lids still don't seal down very well, and they're still going to kind of slide and get hung up there. But y'all need to incorporate what I do. My wife, of course, her being a nurse, I get the 13 dram pill bottles. So I have like the little medication bottles that pills come in, and I have like 20 of them, and I write down my numbers like a 3/0 hook, and I put all of my 3/0 hooks in that pill bottle. And then that way it's an easy reference for me to find what size hook I need, and I don't ever have to worry about hooks flying all over the place.
Good idea.
Good point.
Probably freak out some new people you take fishing, and they open your thing and see a bunch of prescription pill bottles.
Drug smuggler here.
I want to be careful with that. The tournament stuff, it's all about time, right? We had to cut down the time that we were spending rigging up our product on the water, because all the time was we wanted to catch our fish with, so it was a quick reference. I can grab a 3/0 pill bottle. I know it's a 3/0 hook in there.
like it.
Another thing a lot of people do is they'll take a safety pin and just slide their hooks onto the safety pin and close it. And that'll keep them all in place too. Easy to access them, keep them organized.
That's right.
The worst ones are the little my little ones for catching pinfish. If I do catch pinfish, just put get a little chunk of gulp, and so it's like the size 10 hooks, the little gold hooks, and they'll just get in every little nook and cranny. That I think the pill bottle would be perfect for that. I know.
Yeah, you would laugh if you saw mine. I have 3 or 4 boxes of nothing but terminal, and all of them have pill bottles in it.
Pills are good. Wyatt, dude, what are you working on? What kind of reviews are you going to be doing here in the next week or so?
So I've got some pretty interesting stuff coming up. It's starting to turn to topwater time here up in North Carolina, and the same makers of everyone's favorite live imitation shrimp from Chase Bait also make a really interesting topwater. It's called the Drunken Mullet. And basically this functions a little bit differently.
Like someone might have been drunk when they created it. Look at that stuff.
Yeah, it's insane. I mean, look at this guy. He looks really lifelike. He's disjointed. What's really cool about this thing, as opposed to your normal spook bait, is it's got a little propeller on here too. Really interesting action for sure. But I would say probably the most interesting benefit, most spooks sit up like this, and because the redfish, their mouths are on the bottom of their chin rather than trout and snook that can attack from below. This thing sits downward. For those of you who may not be seeing the video, listening to this on the podcast, the tail sits further down in the water, which makes it a little bit easier for those reds to come up and get it. And it's obviously even easier for the snook and trout to attack it. So I'm testing out a bunch of different topwaters.
What's on the back of that thing? Is it a propeller?
Yeah, so this is it spins in the water, and it's if you've ever seen any of those old prop baits that you'd use for bass that have the little helicopter blades, it functions the same way, but this actually has, I think, a better action on it. It's a little bit more controlled, but it creates just enough of a disturbance in the water, like that Goldilocks zone where it's not too much, but it's also not too little. And there's obviously, you can hear it, a bunch of little ball bearings in there making all kinds of sounds. This thing, I haven't gotten a chance to test it out yet. We've had some tornadoes here in North Carolina, so the winds have been rough to get out on the water, but I'm excited to put these to the test and see what they can catch.
Man, you stick some LED lights on that, and you're going to scare everything in the ocean.
Yeah, I know. It's pretty crazy. The price point is pretty crazy as well, but I think if it can catch as many fish as I think it will, it's going to be well worth the price.
So what's the price?
What's the damage on that thing?
It's like $14, $15 per lure. So do not go tossing it near mangroves. Don't go tossing it near any structure you're going to lose. I'd be fishing this thing over some like open flats, maybe over an oyster bar, and make sure that you're seeing some mullet around, and you'll probably have your best results there.
All right. Might want to test that out in a swimming pool first so we can actually get a review.
Yeah, I'm curious to see that. It almost looks like it's too loud for a lot of the waters I fish, but I don't know.
If you fish it really slow, the wake is really not that insane. And you could fish it like you would a spook. You can walk it and you can see the body, it joints. So it does have a little bit of a walk the dog action, not as good as your average spook bait. But if the propeller on it, it is, I think it's the best prop bait I've ever used, no doubt. And I've used a lot. It was one of my favorite lures for bass, and I caught a lot of bass with it. So even if you wanted to use it in freshwater, I'm sure that maybe Mark can put that to the test.
A Whopper Plopper 2.0, baby.
That's what it looks like. It looks like a Whopper Plopper on steroids.
There you go.
This is the Whopper Plopper here. I did a review on this a while ago and caught some really nice trout on it. And what I was going to say, the nice thing about these is you can fish them really, really slow in calm water, and it'll just create like a little bit of bubbling, and they call it like a blooping sound when you're reeling them in. Then if it's really choppy out, really windy, then you can really rip them and make a lot more noise, draw attention to them.
But Tony, have you used that since your review? Or is it?
Yeah. My go-to is the Super Spook Junior, either in the bone white or the bone silver color. I try to keep it simple. I test out a lot of lures, but I always end up going back to my go-tos just to keep it limited.
Old trusty.
Changing baits every 2 minutes, wasting time.
And why have you caught fish on that plug yet?
So this guy, no, I have not, just because, like I said, I picked it up not too long ago, and the winds have been really tough here. But I'm hoping to get out and put it to the test on the water soon. But I think to your point, Tony, that Spook Junior, it's a fantastic all around bait. But I think for some guys who might just be getting new into topwater, it might be a little bit difficult to learn how to walk the dog if they want to see some of those topwater blowups, which is super fun. And another option is I'll be testing some from Yozuri, but just a straight open face popper where it just chugs along. I'll be testing one of those too. This is just your most basic one that you can get from Bass Pro. But yeah, I'll be testing those. These are two really good options for getting into topwater fishing. If you don't know how to walk the dog yet, I highly recommend you learn how to do that, because it really can catch a fish in almost any scenario, like Tony said. But prop baits and chuggers are super easy to use. A constant retrieve where you can just pop them with your rod tip, and you can definitely get some strikes that way as well.
Yeah, the good thing about this, right, about us, is that we will use them all and we will report what happens, right, in an unbiased way. The good and the bad and the ugly. The fact that we're not tied to any specific manufacturer is I think, a unique thing that we have, where we can literally put two brands together and give you a true unbiased guidance, and then let you choose as you please. And so we can work with it, whatever companies we want. And with Mark here, we're going to be testing out an absolute ton of lures.
Yeah, I'm really excited to compare, the Rapala and the Yozuri, some of the pencil baits that they have, because on the bottom of their baits, they have such that aggressive V-shaped bottom to it that, kind of creates that keel. And those that, that fish similar to me as far as style go, yes, the traditional walk the dog technique is always going to be a tried and true. But sometimes, for those bigger trout, bigger fish, when you hammer that rod tip and make that bait just dart real heavy and violently to the, to one side and just kill it for a little bit, those V-bottomed style twitch baits are going to be killer for that technique that I like to, deploy whenever I'm out there trying for that hard bite, and I found that some of my biggest trout have come on that aggressive, rod twitch, to where that thing will dart 3 foot off to the side.
What baits do you use, Mark?
Traditionally speaking, I like using Rapala. So whenever we're talking about, some of our tried and true baits, I like the little twitch and mullets. I like the little small profile style baits. But I'll tell you, in the last 5 or 6 years, Yozuri and Rapala really have come, to the pinnacle of our industry. Their paint schemes, their crackled looking finishes, glass finishes. It really is a unique color scheme pattern. And the baits are fantastically made. So I'm curious to really put the two of them side by side to see which one really can handle the style of fishing that I do with that highly violent, twitch pattern.
And what about reels? I was going to ask him about reels. Mark, what are you excited to put to the test? Let me ask you a different question. You've been working in a tackle store that's doing millions of dollars of a year in sales. So you see a lot of people, a lot of questions. What are some of the biggest questions? And I have to assume it's the top three are still, in terms of inshore kind of spinning. What we usually talk about is Penn and Daiwa and Shimano, or is there something else out there that's?
Well, I would no longer put Penn in the conversation anymore. They have kind of lost a lot of their majority, not so much because of, I don't want to say that the quality has dropped off. It's just, I think the younger anglers coming up, they're a different angler than what we were. They want to have two really, really good combos, instead of us older anglers that need to have 40 combos in our boat. We probably wouldn't have, the CI4s or the Stratic FLs on a combo like a St. Croix rod kind of deal. We would have a more marginal based product and have more of them. So I would say the newest, kind of deal is, of course, Shimano, Daiwa. Our two Japanese products are probably still 1 and 2, in my opinion, as far as brand recognition goes with younger generation anglers. And then everyone really kind of shares that last spot. So yeah, most of the stuff that I field is, as far as, questions go, is, it seems like the dynamic of our industry is how small can I go in a reel? How light can I go on a rod to still do what I want to do? And I think that you'll start seeing a lot of 1,000 class reels, 2,000 class reels, 2,500 class reels really starting to be a major focus of our inshore industry.
1,000 too, huh?
Yeah. So Stratic 1,000, Fierce 1,000s, a lot of these reels we are selling a pile on, and that's the beauty of, going back to Penn, is now you have an entry level of $59 for a Fierce 3 1000. So, you can get into that lightweight segment for hardly any money. So, and if you want, of course, better quality, better componentry, a smoother product, then you can go up to a 1000 Stratic. But you would be shocked on how the smaller items are really starting to put a big stronghold in our industry.
That's fascinating. What about rods? What are you pairing it up with?
Most of the guys that are going that lightweight, they're still kind of keeping it lightweight on the rods as well. So they're more so going to make it a trout outfit. So that medium light would be kind of their heaviest, rod, setup for the 1000. So medium light, sometimes even a light action, pairs well. And they're going to just make it a nice, speckled trout, kind of a combo, and then kind of finesse the other fish if they hit.
Luke, Tony, Wyatt, do you guys have any really super light 1,000 setups yet?
No, the smallest I have is 3,000. That's about the smallest I've gone. And I pair my rods and reels on medium to medium heavy.
Yeah, I don't have any 1,000s. I did get a 2,000. That's that Piscophone reel that I've been testing out, and it has plenty of line. But if you're just using 10-pound line, it holds plenty. I mean, I caught a 42-inch snook with it without it made some good runs. But I looked at the spool, and there was still plenty. Like I wasn't at risk of getting spooled. And those things. I mean, with 10-pound line, you only need 3 pounds of drag, and so you don't need. I used to go look at all the metrics on reels, and if it didn't have 20 pounds of drag, I was, that's junk. I'm not getting that. But I was only using 10-pound line. Anything more than 3 pounds isn't needed. And so now I just go, like Mark was saying, you can go more inexpensive on the reel and then apply the savings to a nicer rod. And what I found is that the rod will help you catch more fish. The reel will just help you catch the same amount of fish a little bit smoother. So I put most of my focus on rods, not so much on reels anymore.
What's up with that Bull Bay rod? Luke, you and I went fishing last Friday, and we started tearing it up. We were catching tons of grouper, reds, trout, snook, and we got a nice slam real quick, and all of a sudden the lightning storm came. We bolted, but you were about to tell me how much you were liking this Bull Bay rod. I personally don't own one. What is it you like about it?
Yeah, I mean, I like the action. It casts well. I like the fact that the butt is a little bit shorter than a lot of other rods that are 7.6.
Oh, you like short butts, huh?
I like short butts. Well, the longer butts just aren't needed. It's still plenty long enough to where I'm not even on the double haul, on the dark cast. I don't even have the bottom hand at the very end. I have it up a little bit, so it's plenty big enough, but it casts more like an 8-foot rod. So I get really good casting. What I don't like about it, and it feels good and everything, and it's light enough to where I'm casting these little crab lures, these light crab lures for sheep's head that we just did some reviews on. I've used it with both these lures, super light, cast them accurate, but it's heavy enough to chunk out some topwaters and heavier plugs too. What I don't like about it though is the actual grip on the one I got. I just don't like split grips. And it's this one, I think right now they only come in split grips, I believe. But I think they do some custom ones. So anyhow, I love the blank. I don't like the butt so much, but they do have some custom ones. So I'll try out one that has the type of grip that I like with that same blank. That could be the ultimate rod.
Cool. And so what are you reviewing this coming week or so?
Back to Topwater. So I did the test last fall, and I just never did have time to go through the footage and post it. But I did a detailed test on my two favorite topwaters to see how they perform. And so I did the Rapala Skitterwalk versus the Super Spook Junior. And so they're both the same size. And I had them on two rods, the exact same rods. And I took them out like 4 times. And I caught slams on most of the trips. And every time I would make 3 casts and then switch 3 casts after 3 casts, 3 casts. So I would fish for hours doing 3 casts, and I was logging what I caught. And so I won't say the final conclusion, but what I learned is that both of them caught fish. Like none of the times did I not catch a fish with each plug. But I did see that one would outperform the other and vice versa based on the amount of wave activity in the water. So one was better in the calm, one was better in the rough stuff. And you'll have to see that review to see the conclusion.
All right. In a fight between those two teamed up against Slam Shady, who wins?
Oh, no doubts. I mean, so Slam Shady is going to win, obviously. I mean, subsurface will almost always beat topwater. Like topwater for thrill, it's almost like driving. Like, do you get a driver or a putter? A putter is going to help your score better, but a driver will make you look a little bit cooler off the tee box. Like the Slam Shady will help you catch more fish. But a topwater bite is just so much fun. So I think everybody needs to have both. But if you want to make sure you don't get skunked and that you catch fish every trip, you have to have subsurface. And right now, Slam Shady is the best for overall consistency that I've tested so far.
All right.
But I will always have a topwater in my tackle box because nothing beats a topwater bite.
One more. Slam Shady against a hurricane.
What if the hurricane is Hurricane Slam Shady?
If you guys haven't seen that, a little Ditka from SNL.
Saturday Night Live back in
what if the hurricane is Hurricane Ditka? Oh, no contest.
Yeah, no contest. And then as far as reviews too, I mean the crab ones too. For those, there's still a lot of sheep's head inshore, and so if you're looking to catch sheep's head with lures, we did 2 reviews recently. If you haven't seen them, check them out. And this is Savage Gear crab versus a chase baits. They both work just like before, but one, like the chase baits, does better on the drop, like dropping down a piling. This is amazing, but it's not so good it doesn't cast very far, and like it's just really slow to retrieve. This one is better if you're like covering ground, like covering bottom. This Savage Gear one, which is a fraction of the cost, will actually do better. So details in that review, but yeah, it's really cool doing these experiments to actually see the specific situations that one lure will outperform the other, and then vice versa.
Mark, what's the story on chase baits? I mean, to us, it seems like they kind of came out of nowhere, but is it an Australian company that had great lures there and moved to here? Or what?
I'll say in about the last 3 years, Australia came on the scene. I mean, in a huge, huge way. Chase Baits came along, Nomad came along, a lot of these Australian brands came along, and what really made both companies so good so fast is they put a lot of marketing effort behind them. Chase Baits, they made the most realistic looking crabs on the market. And they put a lot of emphasis behind it, kind of grew it out of a grassroots level of area here in Florida, and then just try to get it out as quick as they can. Same with Nomad, Nomad being on the offshore premise, probably one of the hottest, diving plugs on the market, and probably one of the hottest flatfall jigs on the market. So just 2 huge companies that Australian made, Australian done, and both of them are, got, some good Florida ties. So just lots of marketing behind them right now.
Cool. It's interesting. All right. Let's go back to this topwater, which we've put a big focus on. Best type of rod action for topwater. What do you guys like?
I keep it simple. I just use the same 1 or 2 rods for everything. I like to get rods that'll cover everything. That way I'm not having to lug 15 rods out in the skiff or on the paddleboard.
Oh, you're like the opposite of a bass guy, you mean?
Exactly.
Oh! Sorry, Mark, couldn't resist.
I'll have 20 rods on the deck next time.
Yeah, I just can't. I can't handle that. And so I just get like a good medium heavy rod, medium heavy most brands, medium with the TFO, medium heavy like everything else. And I get really nice rods that are fast action, have really good feel, but the tip is soft enough to cast a little tiny crab, like a light bait, but it has enough power to launch the camera when I'm getting this underwater footage. I'm literally casting a big camera out, and it slings it. I mean, it works for topwater, like a fast action spinning rod. In my opinion, is the most versatile thing you can have. Where you can have just like one or two setups to cover the bases pretty well.
Wyatt, what about you?
I would say that I'm with Luke. I like to kind of use the same rods for all my applications, but I do have a couple that I won't throw top waters with. If they're of lighter powers, I know each manufacturer has different specifications for what qualifies as light or medium and medium heavy. But if I had to just pick one, I would probably go with a medium and a fast action. I like having a little bit of flex on that tip so I can give that nice little pop. Especially if I'm working like a spook bait, that definitely needs to make those cuts really quickly. I like having that little flex in the tip. But if I'm using like the prop baits or chuggers or things like that, I would say the action on the tip doesn't matter as much, but you would definitely want to have a stiff rod because they're just going to grab that thing and go.
Cool. Tony, what do you think, dog?
Yeah, I'm in the same boat as far as using the same rods for pretty much everything. I mean, you get used to one rod and you get used to how you work a certain lure with that rod. And if you can, I'll throw jerk shads with the same rod that I'll throw a spook with or a topwater super spook. But if I had a preference, like when I used to bass fish, I was a guy that had 6 to 10 rods.
Tony, you're on camera, dude. I can count.
Come on, Tony.
Rods behind you.
Tony's on the dark side.
Those are all just for show. Those are half of them are actually offshore rods that I never use. But yeah, if I had to choose a specific topwater rod, it would definitely have a softer tip. One, just for the action. If you use a rod with a very stiff tip, you're basically just going to drag that topwater through the water. You're not going to get a lot of action out of it. So softer tip, and also the softer tip will help when you're fighting the fish. Usually you have treble hooks or just single inline hooks, and you can easily pull hooks with a topwater because they're smaller, and with the treble hooks, they can bend easily. So a softer rod tip definitely helps topwater.
Cool. Mark, what's your experience?
So I'm going to go completely far left on everyone right now. So to me, this goes back to one of the unique things that I learned from the live bait mastery side is that's you match the rod with the bait that you're using, right? So, Luke has always talked about, Mark, I've used a freshwater Zoom horny toad bait on top for redfish. Well, to me, that bait needs a specific type of rod. That's where I would use something on a heavier power, but a really, really extra fast tip, just because you want that hook penetration because you're ripping a hook through a lot of plastic whenever you're fishing up top for a redfish. So to me, it's matching the rod to the bait. Traditionally, on a very lightweight topwater bait, something that's very, very lightweight in the wind, kind of a thrown bait, I'll use something that has a lot of tip to it, where a fast might not be enough tip. Also, what plays into perspective is, your wave height. There's times where I throw top water in some pretty turbulent water just because it's still a good bait to use in a heavier chop. Well, the faster that tip is might hinder the performance of that bait and vice versa. So to me, it's really the whole picture scenario. I would say that this is one thing that I think all rod manufacturers do a poor job at is every rod manufacturer might say it's a fast tip, but all fast tips are not the same fast tip. Okay. It really is based on the manufacturer that you're using. And to Luke's point, where TFO might rate a rod a little differently than how other manufacturers rate their rod, I would say that the true sense of the industry standard would be a medium action rod with a fast tip. But that means so many different things, especially with the rod manufacturer that I use a lot of.
I tested out. I have a heavy power, so I just go to the stores and just and put the rod on the ground and just flex it
and break it over and try to break it over your leg, of course.
Yeah. If I don't like it, I just break it right there. Like was it Bo Jackson that did that?
That's right.
But so anyhow, so I go to the stores and I wanted to test out a St. Croix, the E6X series, which is like a high end series. They're very nice rods. But I wanted to go test them out, and I start with medium heavy, and then I'll usually go down I'll go down for TFO. I'll get one down to medium. But the E6X, like their medium heavy just still felt kind of more like a wet noodle. It was just a softer tip than a normal medium heavy. And that's the most frustrating thing, is that there's no set criteria across the industry, across brands that like literally. So I have a heavy power action E6X, and it feels like my medium power TFO. So it's sometimes it even skips 2 levels. And I don't know. That's always been a frustrating thing, and I guess there's no way to solve it, right? Because the manufacturers can do their own thing. But that's just one thing to be mindful of. Or if you always use a medium heavy and you're switching brands, it doesn't always mean that you need a medium heavy for the next brand, or a medium light, or whatever the case is.
Luke, you said you were using the St. Croix E6X, or was that the G Loomis?
G Loomis. I'm sorry. Yeah,
that's my favorite rod. I love those E6Xs. They're great, especially for light trout setups like we were talking about earlier. I've got a 2000 series reel on one of their medium light rods. It's fantastic.
Yeah, they're high quality, a lot of feel. I've used those with the crab as well, and a lot of good, just good feel. It's a solid rod. It's expensive. It's $230 plus or minus, but I mean it is really nice.
I was going to say too, when it comes to standards as far as tackle and rods and reels, it's the same with reels. Like a 3000 size reel of one brand may be a little bigger or smaller than another brand, and hooks, 3/0 circle hook of one brand might be a little bit smaller or bigger than a 3/0 of a different brand. So it really applies to all tackle, all gear, really.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, you look at the nomenclature of a Daiwa product. I think Daiwa is still the last company to kind of standardize themselves with the rest of the industry. You look at a Daiwa BG, 3000, that reel looks so big compared to other 3000s. That's one of the unique things that Daiwa started to do with a lot of their products, is now they're starting to have industry sizes. So if you look at their lifetime warranty reel, they exist. Now that new product is like the other 2000s of the industry, the 3000s of the industry. So they're now starting to produce that normal size. And I do think that reels are much further ahead of where rods are. Rods are all over the map right now.
Yeah, and that's the Daiwa too. When Joe and I went down to Almirada to fish with Captain Hollywood Johnson, we were shark fishing, and he's like, we might have some. We should definitely catch some black tips and stuff. And he's like, we might have some big hammerheads or bull sharks coming, so I'll bring the big rig. And I was like, and he pulls out a spinning rod. It was a 4500. And I was like, it was a Daiwa, and with a 4500 Daiwa BG on it.
That's right.
And I was like, yeah, here it is. I was like, that's the big rig, and it's 4500. I used to use 4000s for trout, and I was just totally overpowering. And sure enough, a big hammerhead came in. It was a 7-footer, and that 4500 BG totally worked it. I mean, it was surprisingly good. So now, I used to always get 6000 size reels for tarpon. And my next tarpon reel is going to be probably 4500 BG after seeing how well it did with that hammerhead.
Yeah, but the thing to as a preface to that statement though is Daiwa's 4500 is the size of what some other manufacturers 5s and 6,000s truly are in class size of the body.
So what's the way to tell? Are the line capacities, are those looks accurate where you can see, okay, how many yards of 30-pound test can it hold, or 20-pound or 10-pound?
That's exactly how I used to tell the staff, go by line capacity. Most manufacturers now tell you what the braid capacity is. There's not many people that fish with mono anymore, but, kind of go apples to apples the best way that you can. And line capacity is that criteria that can happen.
So I'm actually shopping for a tarpon rig, and and I'm curious too from the manufacturer side, and is there a recommendation on how much line you should have, like for tarpon fishing or for, like, say, redfish and snook, or is it just kind of whatever you think you need?
400 yards for tarpon.
What was that, Tony?
Say 400 yards for tarpon.
Yeah.
50-pound class.
Fishing from a beach or somewhere you can't go chase it down. I would have
I know it varies, right? Because if you're in a boat, you can always chase it down. But what about fishing from shore?
To me, with any of your inshore stuff, I think still the industry standard is, packing a reel with 150 yards, and then you have your backing on it. And then, more of your near shore, offshore stuff, that golden number is double. So that 300-yard base is traditionally where you are with product. And with the advent of braid and guys, you think about this too. Look at how braid has changed in the last 5 years. You got some new braid on the market, like, the Seaguar products that are even thinner in application than any other braid ever. So now, where a 10-pound test is traditionally 2-pound, size-wise of what monofilament is, now that's changing again. So now the Seaguar product is half that size. So, it really is changing constantly with more and more, releases into the market on the braid side. But these reels will hold a mile of line.
Yeah, so I wonder the casting distance, like for casting braid. I'm going to be doing some more casting contests, and one thing I've never tested is the actual. I've been testing out different lines, like one line versus the other on the same reel. I'm wondering the diameter of the reel, like going from a 1,000 to a 3,000, all else kept equal, right? Same line, same rod, same lure. Can I cast the 1,000 further because the reel size is smaller, or does the wider reel have the advantage because there's gonna be less revolutions, right?
You're gonna use the same rod too?
Yeah, it's the same rod, same everything. And I'm wondering, or does it not even matter? But to me, it seems like, I don't know.
I do know the height of the spool will play a difference. Like the Stratix, for example, the CI4 Plus has a very kind of short spool, and the FL is a little taller. And I noticed a pretty good difference in the casting distance. That longer spool seems to cast better than the shorter spool on the CI4.
Yeah, so to me,
I don't know about the actual diameter though.
If you ever watch braid or any line come off of a reel, that heavy coiling action that comes off the reel.
It's like watching a fire. You could do it for days.
The biggest thing is to make it as lineal, as fast as you can. And that was the whole big thing about, I'm going to choke the guides down, even using those little micro guide. The premise to that is to get that line as flat as you can, as fast as you can for the maximum distance on the cast. So me personally, I would think that the smaller reel would choke that line down even faster to hit that first major stripper guide flatter. But I agree with Tony because I have physically seen an FL on the same rod cast further than a CI4 Plus in the same category. I think he is 100% right. That long cast style spool there's just something about how that line comes off.
But is it an actual thinner spool? Like is the spool diameter different? Like I can't.
They hold the same amount of line, but the 3000 FL and the 3i or the 3000 CI4 hold the same amount of line, but the spool on the FL is higher.
You're right, but
the arbor in the middle of the spool is a wider arbor in the FL. Yeah. So that's why it's a longer spool, because the center arbor is thicker.
How would that physically help? Because the line still has to uncoil but is the diameter the exact same, or I assume the taller spool has a little bit thinner diameter? Like, is that the fact? Because all the line is doing is just coming off the spool. It's just coming straight up.
Well, it has more to, like, if you think about like a shorter spool, like the CI4, the line is changing directions coming off the spool quicker, if that makes sense. Like the FL, it's coming off the spool like in, you got a visual here. Like when you cast this line out, it's going to be coming off and it's going to be, going up, then it's going to be going down. It's going to be going up, going down. And the longer the higher the spool, it's going to be coming off for a longer a period of time in one direction as opposed to changing direction. So I think that has a lot to do with, the height of the spool. If you see some of these surf casting reels, the spools are like 3 inches tall.
Matter of fact, one of the reels that we're going to be doing a product review on is going to be the new Spinfisher 6th generation, the long cast for surf fishing. So they know that a lot of our members, want us to do some neat ideas with surf casting and stuff like that. And this is one of the, the big reels that are on the market right now. And that's that ultra long cast Spinfisher that has that really, really large arbor, but a lot of capacity on the height of that spool. And I'll tell you, these things will zing at a mile.
Interesting. Yeah, I'll pick some up. So if the taller spool has better casting performance, then what's the benefit of the smaller spool? Is there one? Does it look cooler?
Probably for weight, I would think.
The industry's gone to, I want something compact, light. I want it to balance near my hand level. And I think that's the reason why all these compact style reels really started to get a lot of momentum. Because back in the day, Luke, you remember, 10, 20 years ago, they had long cast spools back in the old Daiwa Whiskers, the older style reels. They had them back then. It's just the industry's kind of evolved to lighter, stronger, faster, smaller. And that's kind of how it's gone the last 5 years.
Interesting. Sounds like a test. And
I got a lot of good test ideas from this.
And I know, Mark, this is your first podcast. I will apologize on your behalf. We have a rule that we don't use any big words. And about 4.5 minutes ago, I wrote down the word lineal. I don't know what that means, so we'll have to look it up for our audience. We apologize in advance. We always say there's no math and no big words. So lineal will be defined in the show notes.
That's right. Yeah, I will very frequently make up my own words just in case. That's not a legitimate word. It's a Southern thing.
Make it up.
So let's end this since I want this whole episode to be more just about Topwater, because that was the majority of the conversation until we had a really interesting conversation about spools. Best favorite lure, if you can only have one, and I saw that question came up in the insider community as well. I answered it with a Azera Spook or Spook Junior, just because.
Other than Slam Shady, you mean?
This is a Topwater.
Okay.
I guess you could turn Slam Shady into Topwater. So
what about if they named it Topwater Slam Shady?
Oh, dirty pop, Slam Shady Topwater. What do you guys think? If you only use one.
For Topwater?
Yep.
It would probably have to be the Super Spook Junior in the bone color. I've caught trout, redfish, snook, even tarpon on that one lure.
What about freshwater?
Same.
Nice.
Yep, that's the main reason. when I fished freshwater, this was my number one topwater, and I started throwing it in saltwater, and they were hitting that too. But if I had to pick a second for freshwater, it would be the Rebel popper, the tiny one, the really small one.
Uh-huh.
That thing, I've caught some big fish on that little popper. You have to beat up the hooks, though.
Very good.
Luke,
Yeah,
Wyatt?
I would say, honestly, I know everybody here loves the spook, but I fell in love with these poppers when I started bass fishing. And I think in terms of conditions, I know that you can fish the spooks and a lot of stuff, but I've had issues with them. Sometimes if it gets too windy with them not making the right kind of cuts, I just think the action created by these poppers is very unique. And you can adjust it a little bit more to whether it's calmer, or it's windier. It's just a personal preference thing. But I really love my poppers, and I'm looking forward to testing some more for the club here soon.
Yeah, and I'll go. I've recently switched to the skitter walk. So I was a Super Spook Junior fan. I still love it. I still always have one on me. But I feel like for catching slams, I was doing a little bit better, again, slightly better with the skitter walk. Yep, Tony's got one there. And I put single hooks on it, but I like the skitter walk better. It has it sinks a little bit further in the water, so it just enables redfish to eat it a little bit easier. And so, yes, I was catching slams with the Super Spook, but I feel like I was catching more redfish. I was missing a little bit less fish with the skitter walk, and I believe it was because it sits down a little bit deeper in the water. But both of them are excellent.
Very good.
Mark?
I'm going to go two different routes. My old school is going to be kind of a Heddon mullet, the old twitch and mullet, the Heddon days back many, many moons ago. Again, for the fact that the rear end of the bait sits so low into the water level, it allows you to get pretty violent with it on a retrieve. On the freshwater side, I'm going to have to go with the Trixie Shark, a reaction innovation, a heavy kind of a cut U-tail kind of tails on both of the legs, just gurgles the water, just fantastic.
Makes me kind of want to see one
for topwater too.
What's that?
One, Tony?
I use their paddle tails for topwater too. The skinny dipper.
Oh yeah,
Houdini color that's been killing it recently. I just went out Friday afternoon and that's all they were hitting. Lake Tahoe.
You going bass fishing with it?
Yeah.
Good stuff.
Pretty cool.
Guys, this was a fun one, a fun Tackle Tuesday. Apparently, we never even went live on Facebook. I kept checking, and I don't know if it's a Zoom issue with all the things that they've had going wrong, but I tried to connect 3 different times. So great job. We went like 53 minutes just of us all chatting amongst each other. So next time, we promise we are going to do everything we possibly can to get on Facebook. I have no idea. It tried to connect 3 times and just kept clicking off. So,
I think the fact that we went so long with just a couple of topics, like once we get questions coming in from Facebook, we almost need to do like a specific, like topwater in this case. Maybe next time we do a specific niche. There's just so much tackle out there.
Amen. And
we'll be testing it all.
A new tackle guru. And one big thing that we're doing, and you guys might already notice this, is a whole lot more reviews. As Luke mentioned, we have no sponsors, so we can go get any brand we want. In most cases, we pay for it ourselves for our own money. Occasionally, we get some free stuff, but we tell them right off the bat, hey, if you want to send us something, that's cool, but just know we're going to talk about the cons as well and might even say the product stinks. Yeah, which has only happened like 1 or 2 times where actually the one time, I guess we can talk about it now, it's called the fish call. That was the only time we didn't even publish it. It was so bad. And now I think the company might be under, so I don't feel too bad. But that was when they sent us, and we told them, I was like, man, like we can't publish this. And a guy asked that question, if you guys remember, and they made it on Shark Tank too. And I think Cuban, probably one of his bad investments, invested in it. And it was basically this underwater transmitter of different sounds, shrimp sounds and scared mullet. And it was said to bring fish in. And Luke, remember what we did? We dropped it there in the marina and actually filmed what was happening. And like the snook were scared to death of it.
Yeah, Gasparilla Marina where they throw out all the shrimp. And so I was like, okay, well, there's a shrimp call. I was like, there's snook here. They're trained to eat shrimp. And so we dropped it in and like, snook go away. And obviously we were throwing in baits and everything. And then we pulled it out, and then the snook came back and started getting more aggressive. And then we put it back in, and it went away. Like it was.
Yeah, and we would actually like toss shrimp in next to it, and with it went out, and like the snook would not come near the thing. And we did use it. We did catch a snook next to it, but we caught a snook right without it either. So it was for $100-something. And I apologize if you guys still are in business. But I think last time I looked, it had exchanged hands or something had happened. I think that was one that, as fishermen, most of us were kind of hoping and praying it was going to work, just like we were. Like, this is going to be so cool, and it didn't. And you have to, like, the only way it really could work is if you get it out far enough, and either that means you're casting it, which was like basically casting out a bowling ball so heavy and it made this massive splash, or you have to slowly let it go with the current, which means you have to be anchored. It was just really tough to use, and you have to, like, you have to tie it on to your boat or something, or it's just going to go off forever and you lose it. And so you have line attached to it too that it comes with. And like the one time we had a fish on, it got wrapped in the line. It was a massive mess. But
yeah, we caught fish around it. We threw it in a spot where new fish were there,
right.
and
then we pulled it in and caught fish. Was my point earlier. But anyhow, I tell you all that to say we do unbuy stuff. So let us know, what do you want us to review. And as Mark said, a big reason we brought him on was to get access to a whole lot more products. And all of our insider members get 20% off pretty much everything. And if you can find it in any major tackle store, you're going to be able to get 20% off as an insider member. So if you're not a member, what the heck are you waiting on? We are waiting for you in there with some virtual high fives. Go to saltstrong.com to learn more. Guys, this has been fun. Let's do it again next Tuesday. What do you think?
Tackle Tuesday.
Oh, snap, crackle pop. Thank you guys for all the support. We be out. Peace.
'Cause fishing, it's in